Set priorities and work on key tasks. There's always 100 things that you can do, but the ability to set priorities is one of the most important of all skills that we have as an adult, is to pick, if you have even two things, and I learned this from Ludwig von Mises, what is called the law of the excluded alternative. And it said this, that doing one thing means not doing something else. So if you have two things to do, one of them is more valuable than the other. One of them is always more valuable. On a scale, in terms of what is likely to happen, the results and everything else, one is always more valuable. The ability to identify and determine which of the two is most valuable and to do that, and only that, is a mark of leadership. The ability to set priorities throughout your business with regard to money, resources, time is absolutely essential. And this is something that requires thinking, because you are overwhelmed with too much to do and too little time. All right, number 4 is focus and concentrate where superior results are possible. And this is important. Many people focus and concentrate on things that are not that important. Ben Trigo had this wonderful line. He said, the very worst use of time is to do very well what need not be done at all. And it's amazing how many of us spend an enormous amount of time working on something that need not be done at all. At least it's not as important as other things that do need to be done. One of the things, and we'll talk about this later, but one of the questions I always ask is, imagine with your workload, imagine you could only do one task before you were called out of town for a month. And every single morning when you look at your list of work before you start, say, if I was to be called out of town for a month and I had to get one thing done before I left, which one would it be? And if you will do that, if you'll think like that, and because it'll pop out at you, you know what it is, then the question is, do you have the discipline to do that? Rather than check your email and phone around and read the paper and get some more coffee and shuffle your papers and, you know, stuff that I know you don't know anything about. And then here's the rule for great success, is do fewer things, but do more important things and do more of them and get better at them. Become a great leader. Leadership can basically be judged as all qualities, in my estimation, on a scale of 1 to 10. People at the bottom have very low leadership ability, and about 80% of the population have low leadership ability. And the primary reason is this, and I've studied this for more than 30 years, is if you look at the 80-20, one of the divisions, there's many divisions, income and so on, but the top 20% are proactive and the bottom 80% are passive. They're constantly waiting for someone to come along and get them cranked up. My friend Jim Rohn says, if you're waiting for someone to come along, what if they don't show up? And many people are waiting their whole lives. They've got an excuse, they've got a reason, I'm not doing this, I'm waiting till then, I'll do it when this happens. They have what is called a when-then mentality. When this happens, then I'll take action. When I get ahead, or I get some money, or I get a guarantee, or something, then I'll take action. But leaders are proactive. And the interesting thing about leadership is not position, leadership is action. Is a person who acts like a leader is a leader that minute. So a person can go from being a passive person, a follower, to being a leader in one instant. All you have to do is begin to act like a leader. You think like a leader and act like a leader. And I want to give you some of these ideas. Okay, so number 1, we say your personal leadership ability is the major limit on what you can achieve. Because what you do is you just set a goal and you make a plan and you work on that goal every single day. That's pure leadership. It's when you start waiting for something to happen and so on that you fall back into that bottom 80%, that passive. By the way, active versus passive is the major sociological economic division in our society today and probably worldwide. People who are really passive, the bottom 50%, are waiting for somebody else to give them some money. That's all. Is they're not willing to work for it themselves or save or suffer or sacrifice. They want somebody else to give them money. And if you go to an auction, if 50% of the population says, we want some free money, you're going to trigger enough politicians to say, if you vote for me, I'll give you free money. I'll take it from him and give it to you. There's a rule that says, and I won't talk about politics anymore, but the rule that says, he who promises to rob Peter to pay Paul will always have the support of Paul. And that's all you need to know about modern politics, is people promising to rob Peter to pay Paul. Only if you're the Peter, you don't want your money taken away. And if you're the Paul, you're all in favor. Hey, go get them. Go get those millionaires and billionaires, millionaires and billionaires. Okay.
And the way you organize your life to set the best example for others is very simple. It was defined in the universal maxim of Immanuel Kant some 300 years ago, where Kant said, live your life as though your every act were to become a universal law. So what you do is this. As you ask the question, what kind of a company would my company be if everyone in it was just like me? What kind of a company would your company be if everyone in it had the same work habits, applied themselves the same way, came in at the same time, concentrated on highest priority tasks the way you do, stayed longer to get the job done? In other words, if everybody looked at you and did everything that you did exactly the way you do it, not what you say, but what you do, would your organization be a superb organization? What we know about leaders is that leaders imagine that everyone is watching them all the time, even when no one is watching them. Leaders carry themselves as role models as if everyone were sitting around them with clipboards taking notes on their behavior. Leaders recognize that the impact of their words, their performance, their behavior is inordinate on those people who report to them. And as a leader, if you set high standards for yourself, you will be, by extension, setting high standards for others.
So therefore, you always set the standard. Remember, everybody watches you. You're the standard bearer. You know, if you have children, what they found in psychology is that children are more influenced by your example than by anything else that you do or say. Well, anything else that you say. You can give them less lectures all the time, but in the final analysis, what they absorb is your example. They watch your example, and that becomes their template for the way you're supposed to behave as an adult. And many of us are still behaving as adults today based on the way our parents were when we identified with them when we were young, for better or for worse, by the way. Number 7 is perform and get results. In the final analysis, leadership is the ability to perform and get results. So always ask, what results are expected of me? In other words, what are the most important results that you are expected to get? Second of all is, what can you, and this is one of the greatest of all questions to keep you on track, is what can you and only you do that if done well can make a real difference? Every minute, every hour of every day, there's an answer to this question. And that is what you should be doing at that time. And sometimes it's a decision you need to make, or a customer you need to call, or a sales plan you need to initiate. But there's always something that you and only you can do. If you don't do it, nobody else will do it. But if you do it and you do it well, it can make a real difference. This is where you need to focus your limited time and energy. And finally, you ask this great question, what is the most valuable use of your time right now? You go through your day with this question, like a mantra in the back of your mind. What is the most valuable use of my time right now? And whatever you're doing, if it's not the most valuable use, stop doing it and start doing what is. This takes tremendous discipline, but as Goethe said, everything is hard before it's easy. So habits, good habits, are hard to form, but then they become automatic and easy. And the most important of all habits to form is the habit of working on the most valuable thing you can possibly be doing. And finally, leaders have the courage to take action with no guarantee of success. Now, I could talk more about this, but here's an interesting discovery I came across. I read on the subject all the time, is leaders expect to fail over and over again. They expect to fail. They don't like it. They don't want it. They avoid it if they possibly can, but they know it is an inevitable part of moving forward is you're going to fall on your face. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to lose time, lose money. Product services won't work. People that you hire won't work out. Markets you go into, advertising you do. A lot of things won't work. The process of business success is a very sloppy system. There's a lot of failure involved, but they're willing to take it. They're willing to take the pain in pursuit of success. And remember that you'll find that successful people fail far more than unsuccessful people. Unsuccessful people are so preoccupied with not taking risks that if they do fail, it's at a very low level. Successful people hate the failure and they don't like the risk, but they take it anyway because that's the price. So therefore, when you have a situation where you have to take a risk, do everything possible to mitigate your risk. Interesting discovery, successful entrepreneurs are not risk seekers. You know, when the politicians who have never been in business say, well, they should be willing to take risks and they should, reach out and they should risk their money and so on. No. Successful business people are risk avoiders. They are very clever risk avoiders in pursuit of profit. They're not out there throwing their money around like gamblers in Las Vegas. They're very careful with their money. I know lots of self-made multi-gillionaire entrepreneurs started with nothing. And the more successful they become, the more cautious and thoughtful they are. The more they plan and do due diligence in advance before they risk. They know that in any case, a good friend of mine said 2/3 of your investments, no matter how much due diligence you do, will not work out. They'll either lose a lot or break even or lose a little, but you have to be prepared that 2/3 of your ventures are not going to work out. And you have to minimize your losses with the best information and maximize your profits. But don't ever be afraid of taking a risk in the pursuit of success.